Good afternoon, children. We have already completed the first part of the first chapter, Resource and Development. Now, this introductory part is there for your online test very soon. Now, I am revising this entire portion that we have completed along with the notes, so that those children who have joined us late or who could not access the notes so far, they can take it down. So we will start directly from the first page of your first chapter. To start with, we started with the definition of resource. Now the most basic concept is that resource must have utility, but apart from utility, it must be technically accessible, culturally acceptable, economically feasible. I had given the examples. Technically accessible means that with the help of available technology, we must get it. Like now, if you are having smartphone, you can easily have online class. If you do not have a smartphone, you cannot access it. So your smartphone is a resource to you. Culturally acceptable. Everything that is there in the nature, in the society, that must be acceptable to everyone. We cannot consider anything as resource that is only acceptable to me or to a single person. It must be acceptable for everyone. And third point, economically feasible means whatever money we have, we must be able to access that resource easily. Now, next topic was relationship between nature, institution and technology with the human beings. Now, nature is very important because from the nature we get resource, whether it is air, water, mineral resources, sunlight, we get everything from nature. Institution is equally important because in the institution we carry out research and try to find out different ways of developing this resource. So, this institution is important, like we have IITs, IIMs and a host of many institutions all over the world which are mainly dedicated to research and development. The third most important thing is technology, because technology are the machines which help us to utilize any resource in a better way. Anything in the nature cannot be used directly. Like for example, if we are growing crops, we cannot consume that crops directly. Like cotton, we have to convert it into clothes. So what helps us to convert it into clothes? It is machine. It can be a very simple machine like the spindle. So technology is very important because technology helps us to use resource in a better way. Next, we have done resource classification. The first one was on the basis of origin. On the basis of origin, we had two groups, biotic and abiotic. Biotic is the living one. Abiotic are all the non-living resources. Biotic resources can reproduce and so they are unlimited in number. Non-abiotic resources cannot reproduce and hence they are limited in number. Example of biotic resources are flora, fauna, human beings, whereas that of abiotic resources are rocks and metals. The second group of classification was on the basis of exhaustibility. On the basis of exhaustibility, we have renewable and non-renewable resources. The renewable ones can renew or reproduce, whereas the non-renewable resources cannot renew or take a long period of time to renew. The second difference is renewable resources are inexhaustible. They will never finish, whereas the non-renewable resources are exhaustible. The third difference is that it can be grouped into continuous and flow, whereas the non-renewable can be grouped into recyclable and non-recyclable. The fourth difference is Renewable resources can be both living and non-living, whereas this is necessarily non-living. And the examples are in the fifth point, that is solar, wind energy, wildlife, and in this case we have different types of mineral resources and fossil fuel. Now the next category is on the basis of ownership. So on the basis of ownership, the first one is individual resource, which is owned privately by individuals like houses, farms, etc. The second one is community owned resource, which is accessible or used by members of a community like grazing ground, park, playground, etc. The next category here we have national resources, that belongs to our nature and the government, that is everything that is there in a country, for example monument, canals, roads, farms and field. Even an individual's house can be a national resource. Suppose the government wants to construct any road which will pass over the plot where you are living, so the government will give you money compensation and can take away your house or the farm or the field. Now here in national resources there are two more important definitions. One is territorial water. Now territorial water is sea or ocean water from the coastline to a distance of 12 nautical miles or 22 kilometers. Another very important definition is exclusive economic zone. From 22 km to a distance of 200 km in the sea comes under exclusive economic zone, and it is used by the country, and it is mainly used for mining, but we need the consent of other world countries. That means we need permission from other world countries. And then we have international resources. International resources are owned by world countries like UNO, WHO, UNESCO, international air and sea route. It will be international, children, not internal. International air and sea routes beyond 200 km of exclusive economic zone. That means the territorial water and exclusive economic zone are national resources, but the international resource lies beyond 200 km in case of sea route, 200 km of exclusive economic zone. Then comes our resources on the basis of status of development. Here the first one is potential resource. So potential resources are present in the nature and we have technology to use it, but the use is limited because it is not very popular among the people. For example, solar energy in India. Then we have developed resources, where resources are present, the technology is known, and we have every details of that resource. We are using it on a large scale and they are very much popular. For example, use of fossil fuels in our life. The next category here we have stock, resources present in nature, but technology to develop and use that particular resource is not known. Like for example, we have great ice sheets in Antarctica, below which there is mineral resources. It is believed that there are mineral resources in the Antarctic area, but we do not have technology to use that resource. So it is a stock. So it is not used at all because we do not have technology, and so there is no popularity for that resources. Another example is producing water in laboratories and solving water crises. The fourth category is reserve. Reserves are resources which are present with technology, but they are kept for future use. They are well known, but we are keeping them for future use. They are the unexplored resources like mineral mines, many forest resources, etc. So this was for the classification of resources. Next we have done another topic, that is how resources are linked to development. Now for the development of any country, resources are very much required. Without the resources, nothing can be developed. So, resources are the basics which are needed for development. Like, for example, if there are mineral mines in a country, it will lead to industrial development. If there are rich fertile soil, it will lead to agricultural prosperity. If there are fast flowing rivers, it will provide us with fresh water, and they are also sources of hydropower. If there is sun's heat, it will provide us with solar energy. Rich diversity of flora and fauna, so they are rich forest resources which is utilized in forest based industries, and this also promotes tourism industry. Educated and aware human population are also very important resource for a country, because the resources will be developed by the human beings. The human beings will be utilizing technology and developing resource. So the human beings bring overall development and prosperity in the entire country. Now the question comes is that what is development of resource? Generally, when we study development of resource, that means use of resources. But here we will study about the use and overuse of resource, or over and excessive use of resources. So what will happen? Anything that is used will be, first thing, any type of resource will finish or end. If we use anything excessively, it's going to finish. That's the most common effect. The second effect is, some people or countries who will be using more resources, they will have more resource and they will be rich, while those who will have less resource will be poor. So in the world we find that there are some countries which are very developed, very rich, whereas some are poor and underdeveloped. And the third effect of overuse of resource will create environmental problems like pollution everywhere, global warming, ozone layer depletion, soil erosion, and land degradation. So what is the solution of this overuse of resources or excessive development of resources? Shall we not use resource? No, we have a solution. The solution is equal distribution of resources among people, societies, and countries. That means among the world countries, the resources must be distributed equally. The second most important thing is that planning properly to use resources so that they may not finish or get polluted. So whatever resource is there, we must plan and use that resources so that they may not finish or get polluted fast. Now this leads us to the concept of sustainable development. The three most important aspects of sustainable development is that resource development must take place, because if development does not take place, there will be no growth and prosperity in the country. So development must take place, there must not be any damage to the environment, and we must also save resource for the future generation. So development, no damage to the environment, and save resources for the future generation. Now comes the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit 1992, Brazil. So this was the first international Earth Summit which was attended by 100 heads of state, and there was discussion of problems related to environment and socio-economic development at global level. There was declaration to stop global climatic change and preserve biological diversity was signed. So this declaration was signed. The declaration dealt with global climatic change and preservation of biological diversity. The next point was Agenda 21 was adopted for achieving sustainable development in 21st century. So what was Agenda 21? What was there in this Agenda 21? It was signed in 1992 at UNCED at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. That is the same conference. It aims to achieve global sustainable development, then overcome the situations created by environmental damage, poverty, and disease. Now, all this will be done through cooperation between countries, and all the responsibilities will be shared. This was necessary as we all have a common interest, that is the well-being of the entire human community and earth as a whole. So whenever there will be disaster in any country, or there will be malnutrition, poverty, disease in any country, the other countries will help through money, through doctors, through different kinds of resources. Why? Because all of them will be done based on the well-being of the entire human community and the earth as a whole. And every local government must draw its own Agenda 21 so that changes start from the bottom or the lowest level of the government. Comes our resource planning. What is resource planning? Resource planning is strategy for balanced and judicious use of resources. Why resource planning is necessary in India? First thing, it is necessary to develop the different types of resources that are widely distributed in different parts of India. Secondly, not only to develop, but we have to distribute the resources. So to distribute the resources evenly throughout the country. And thirdly, to lead to balanced regional development in the country. So after development, distribution of the resources, they will lead to balanced development, prosperity in the country. So there are 3 stages of resource planning. The first stage is we have to identify resource and prepare a list of it, which involves surveying, mapping, finding out the quality of resources and also the quantity of resource available. The second stage is to develop a proper planning strategy to utilize the resource. So this planning strategy involves the use of proper technology, efficient skill and institutional setup. And the third stage is matching the resource development plan with overall national development plan so that it brings national prosperity for the development of the country. Now, how does India does this? India achieves this through implementation of 5-year and national plans. Plans are developed, executed and monitored by the Planning Commission of India, which was set up in 1951 and it was active till 2017. And in 2017 this Niti Aayog was set up. So far we have completed the 12th plan in March 2017. Niti Aayog stands for National Institution for Transforming India, which was instituted by our present Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi. Now next comes our conservation of resources. So we all know resource leads to development in the country and society, but irrational consumption causes socio-economic and environmental problems. Gandhiji's view on resource conservation. Now, Gandhiji was of the view that the finishing up of the resource or resource depletion at global level was mainly due to 2 causes: greedy and selfish individuals or society or country use of the resource, and secondly modern technology that is used to exploit the resources. He was against mass production. So mass production is production in huge quantity which is done in the factory, and wanted it to be replaced by production by masses, that is people. So people will do the production in their homes, because he was present at a time when India was having a huge population which was unemployed. So to give employment, generate employment in the country, the people will produce and not the factory machineries. There were some publications on resource conservation. So the first one was in 1968. The first publication came by the Club of Rome. Second one in 1974, it's a book by Schumacher known as Small is Beautiful, which reflects Gandhiji's philosophy of resource conservation. The third one was in 1987. It was a report published by the Norwegian Prime Minister Brundtland and came to be known as Brundtland Commission Report, which introduced the concept of sustainable development in 1987. Then immediately one book was published, Our Common Future, a book on sustainable development and resource conservation. And finally in 1992, report was presented at the Earth Summit, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and thereafter every year this report is presented, that is report on Earth Summit, that is held every year. So far we have completed the notes on the first half of your chapter, children, and after this we will proceed to the next part of the first chapter. Please study the notes and compile the notes if you have not done so far.